Good evening, and thank you for watching another episode of Blacklight on Sports. I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer McDonald, and my guest this evening is Johnny Allen. Johnny Allen is a community leader. He's a former high school and college football player who's doing a lot of things in the community. And he's a product of Rondo in St. Paul. And before I move on, I want to mention that my partner, Charles Hallman, is currently on assignment and will be back next week to partner with me. Johnny, it's good that you've made the trip to come visit us. It's good for you to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite and much love to you, Brother Mitch. You know, you've been knowing me since junior high. So for you to ask me to come and take part of your podcast, I'm honored and appreciative. So thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to have you. We just want you to talk a little bit about maybe what you're doing right now, and then kind of maybe flashback to how you got to where you are. But right now, what are you doing now?
So yeah, I'm the founder and executive director of the JK Movement. We're a youth development, youth mentoring organization in St. Paul. In the Rondo community, we're based at the old Jimmy Lee Recreation Center, right across the street from Central. But I don't
Okay.
like them. Now I'm just playing. But yeah, so our mission is to empower and inspire effective change in the minds, bodies, and spirits of young folks. Young people, I should say. We've been in the nonprofit industry for a little over 15 years, and we just want to see our babies grow and prosper and believe in themselves and knowing that they are not a product of their environment, but their dreams and aspirations. So,
When did you come up with the idea for the JK movement? How did that come about?
yes, you know, it's to be honest with you, the dreaming and the imagination came when I was a youngster with my parents, of course.
Hmm. Hmm.
They instilled me and my sister just values of believing in yourself and giving back. That was a huge piece of the pie in regards to some of the values that I learned with my mom and dad. But so growing up, having that mindset led to me figuring out what I wanted to do outside of athletics, but in relations to athletics. So I started thinking about the JK movement back in college, actually. Just trying to figure out what will work to my benefit and what will work for my way of doing things.
Okay.
So my sophomore year in college, actually, I remember it like it was yesterday. I had the opportunity. I was playing football for the University of St. Thomas, and
Hmm.
my coach at the time was Coach Roney, and he asked me to speak with a group of youngsters that were coming from the north side of Minneapolis. Just they were on a college tour,
Okay.
and he asked if I wanted to speak and introduce myself and just talk about my story and things of that nature. And so, I was hesitant at first because I really never did anything to that magnitude. I always mentored or did something after school related, but nothing as that ask of speaking with a group. So I did that, spoke with them, talked about pros and cons of being a young black male on a college campus, predominantly white campus,
Hmm.
but also just from being a student athlete as well. Some of the pros and cons that I knew of and know of from coaches and parents and my mentors and things of that nature. So after that, after that interaction with those youngsters, I received an envelope like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and they were giving me thank you cards and thank you for taking the time to speak with us. And a little girl drew a little picture and said thank you. And I think that experience sparked my mindset of doing things from that perspective and kind of solidifying my mindset of providing programming like what we're doing now.
Now, what type of programming are you doing now?
Yeah, so we have three pillars under the JK movement. We have youth empowerment, we have community and civic outreach, and then we have youth and workforce readiness. With what we call underneath that pillar, we have JK Works. So those are three pillars that we focus on with our services and programming. And within those three pillars, we have numerous services and outreach opportunities and practices, and we do all of this under a healing center engagement approach. We were fortunate enough to go through a training through Flourish Agenda, which is based out in California,
Mm-hmm.
that specializes in healing center engagement. And so, under that practice and model, we work directly with our babies, either one on one or group settings, to um, deliver what we want to deliver with those pillars.
Now, what ages do you work with?
We work with we have a wide scale. So basically, we work with youngsters as young as second, third grade
Okay.
up to 18 with the capacity of 24. So basically, second to 24 is our age range. Yeah, and we have a wide range of youngsters as well. Not as much as the not as much as the young adults per se, but definitely that 18, that teenage 18 up to 18.
Now, do some of the
Excuse
now,
me.
yeah. Now do some of the people who have gone through the program come back,
Oh yeah.
like to either talk or even work?
Yep, yep. As I mentioned before, paying it forward has is a huge um value that we try to instill with our youngsters about the JK movement. And so we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of our youngsters who've graduated, who are adults now, come
Hmm.
back and speak to our young groups, as well as a couple of my facilitators was part of the program as well, and they've given back by working with our organization. So yes, we have a great circle of staff that have either had their kids involved with our program, or they were a product of our after school programming, giving
Okay.
back.
Now, who are some of the other people that you work with?
We're a community organization, so I try to get in good and not burn bridges with a lot of people in the neighborhood. So,
Hmm.
we've worked with Boulder Options, we work with the Sana Foundation. We're a partner of United Way, Twin Cities.
Hmm.
We worked with Office of Neighborhood Safety, ONS. We've worked with the St. Paul Police Department, St. Paul Fire Department. So we've worked with numerous other community organizations that want to see our communities safe, but also give our young folks and families opportunities and resources to you know do what they got to do. Another organization I do want to show love to is Dr. Artika Tyner,
Hmm.
Planting People, Growing Justice. That's another organization that we work with, that we work with them hand in hand in regards of offering resources and programming.
How important is it for you and the different community organizations to unite like that and get together? There's a lot of people wanting to go on their own,
Mhm,
wanting to do things on their own, and kind of not interact in that type of fashion.
mhm,
They kind of want, but you've mentioned about 6 or 7 different organizations that you've worked with, and I'm pretty sure they've all worked with each other.
mhm.
How important do you think is that, particularly in the Black community?
I am a firm believer of the ecosystem, or at least creating an ecosystem
Hmm.
for our culture, for our people, and just for the neighborhood itself. I am a firm believer in working with like-minded people, because you're right. There's a lot of people that and I have no quarrels with that either. You want to do your own
Hmm.
thing, do your own thing.
Hmm.
But I know for myself, I really try to do it because of the purpose that I've been blessed to have, and because of doing it from an ethical perspective, and wanting to see our community. excel and do what is needed to prevail from these barriers that we have sometimes. And so working with other organizations, and like I mentioned, Rondo Land Trust and
Mm-hmm.
Reconnect Rondo, those type of relationships that we have, it's about the future. It's about
Mm-hmm.
giving us an opportunity to excel and utilize these resources that we've been able to hustle. I say hustle, but also grind out to get what we deserve. And we're still a long ways to go, but taking the necessary steps to give our community a chance and a sense of hope. So I'm all about that.
Mm. And you said it's been 15 years, huh?
Man, yeah, it's been the industry goes fast. So yeah, the JK movement been around for 15 years, 16 to be honest with you, once the school year's over. But um it's I man, I from starting low key, and another community partner of ours that I've worked with in the past, Ujama Place,
Mm-hmm.
brother Otis Zanders and brother Kadar Hickman. They were my mentors, still are. They gave me an opportunity to expand on my services with my vision that I wanted to have. I also want to mention Flipside from St. Paul Public Schools. They're another partner of ours, and in the district itself.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me the opportunity to provide after school programming when I first started. So I've seen the growth of the JK movement from having one class at Highland Park for after school to where we're at now, which is Jimmy Lee Recreation Center.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been very blessed and honored to just see it grow and prosper the way it has.
Now, how does it feel when you've been around long enough to see the growth, and you've been around long enough where you probably run into people who have been in your program. Now, now they're grown
Hmm.
and they're functioning adults.
Yeah.
And how does that feel when you run into somebody? I know how it feels when I run into a former student
Yep.
or someone that I wrote about a while back, and now they're coaching or they're doing their thing.
Hmm.
Makes me feel pretty good.
Yep.
But how does that feel when you see someone that has gone through your program and that has you see that has learned something from it?
I mean, that's my gratification. Now I'm grateful and seeing young folks, and I give love to the parents as well who given us the opportunity to build a trusting relationship with their child, and also that young person trusting us to be with them through the good, the bad, the dark, and the ugly, and the whole shebang,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing them now grown and having their own family and do their thing, and even the ones who came up to me and said, "You did your best.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I probably went down a different route, but thank you for at least being in my life." Those stories are uplifting to me, and it reminds me why I do what I do and why the JK movement is here still, because we're about that. We want to see our young folks go, we want to go through their journey with them, along with their trust. We want to be a trusted adult outside their families, and others, stakeholders, to see them grow and prosper, you know. And I'm not saying all of the youth have been successful. That's not the case, because that's not what life is, unfortunately. But majority of the young folks that we've have been part of their life, with their youth, their adolescent life, I can say I'm very honored to have been part of
Okay. Now, JK movement, where did the name come from?
that. you know,
Huh?
JK stands for Johnny Knuckles. And so that's my nickname. But it came about when we were jonesing. I'll never forget. Me and my guy, Tim Moore, and
Yeah, Tim.
yeah, Tim Moore, one of my homeboys. We were in the car, me, him, Wayne, Howard, Aaron
Mm-hmm.
Howard,
Mm-hmm.
Dewan Props, Richard Lewis, all of us. We were just jonesing on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim was like, "Man, you Johnny Knuckles, man." And it was just so innocent. It was innocent at first, and the next day I was just reflecting because it was a classic night, but I was like, man, Johnny, I like that name. I like that name. And so I was in the beginning phases of kind of figuring out a brand and a brand identity for the JK movement. At the time didn't really have nothing. And I thought about growing up, watching the A team, watching BA practice with Mr. T and, all these superhero figures. And, I thought about how Johnny Knuckles could be my alter ego because Johnny, I'm Johnny, and then Knuckles, I love boxing, but not to that, cause not to the extent of using it from a negative perspective. So
Mhm.
I was just trying to figure out how I could use that, and I was like, I'll just use it as a way to once again use it as that superhero mentality, but use it in the positive format of when you put your mask on, you got to go at it 110%. You got to go at it from a like an aggressive rockwaller, but in a disciplined manner. So that was the mindset when Johnny Knuckles started coming into the beginning stages of the organization of the industry or the organization. So that's how it came about. But it came about when we were jonesing with each other. And I was like, I really like the name, but let me take it to another level. So that's how Johnny Knuckles came about.
So the K stands for Knuckles.
Yep. K stands for
Okay,
Knuckles. Yep.
okay. And movement, just you're all about.
Yep. The movement, like when I started figuring out how we were going to incorporate the services, I just was like, yeah, movement kind of goes with it. Nice little flow. And we are a movement, because we're nonstop. We're continuously working with our babies, working with families, working in the community. And we're a movement, so yeah.
So it's so it's a movement in a couple of words of the sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That makes sense. Now, I'm going to want you to go back a little bit to, you played a little football.
Played a little ball.
Ball.
Yes.
Where'd you start out? Where'd you start out at? And then, take us through your career.
Yep. So I am a Jimmy Lee product.
Okay.
Second grade all the way eighth grade. I was one of those ones who started early and then had to understand that I had to stay down at 34th grade for 3 years instead of moving up. So, but I began to love football at a young age. My dad got me kind of tuned in with it, and of course my neighbors growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up on, A Block Aurora,
Mm-hmm.
playing street football and balls, but not organized football other than crunch and stuff. But and then I had the good. I mean, Aurora has a lot of rich history, of course, as a whole. It's part
Mm-hmm.
of the Rondo village, but when I was growing up, we had the Goodlows, I had the Colemans, I had the Allens, of course. So I was around athletes. So being able to watch the older heads and the Lewises, of course, my next door neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
being able to see the older cats play, and I was intrigued. Then my dad got me into playing organized football, and I've been a product of Jimmy Lee ever since. So playing football, being part of a winning tradition from second grade up, was part of some great teams, great coaches, um, and those coaches also helped me outside of my parents learn the importance of being a student athlete as well. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, all of those all of those experiences led me to be who I am today from an athletic perspective. So yeah, Jimmy Lee was, and it still is iconic, um, and I still consider it the mecca of rec centers in St. Paul. Times done changed, of course, but we have a very rich history, as you know as well, brother Rich. Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
Lee was that spot, and I was part of that. So I'm very honored to experience that journey from all sports, not just football, but that was my primary. But yeah,
Okay. And you went on to Highland Park.
went to HP. Yeah, there.
Where did that decision come from?
Oh
Because there's a
man.
well, there. I mean, I know at me coming up, it was Central.
Yep, it was
But
Central.
by the time you guys got around to it, it was more, there was a group going to Cretan, there was a group going to Highland, and there was a group going to Central. What made you pick Highland Park?
Till this day, till this day, we still talk. My brothers, Brandon Foster, Vincent Kelly, James Graves, Percy. I haven't talked to Percy. I haven't talked to Percy in a while, but Kasim. I mean, we had the opportunity to. We wanted originally we wanted to be together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a strong team. I mean, shoot, Julius Mims. I mean, we had a squad, and we went to that Cretan open house, and I think that's where everything happened, where everybody just kind of dispersed because some of us wanted to try to figure out what school we can go to. Central was still a strong candidate, but Cretan, has their own storylines. But we went to that Cretan open house, and you know, a few of them went to Cretan, and then that's kind of how everything happened. So when some of our team members decided to go to Cretan and some of us didn't, we were like, well, we wasn't going to go to Central. So the next best place for us, which was within the area, was Highland. And I remember my family folks went to Highland too, so
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of I was gonna lean towards Highland anyways, outside of not going to Cretan. So that's what happened. It was more about a few of my older cousins already going there, but when a few of us decided to go to Cretan, that was that was what made me kind of think about Highland Park as my primary choice.
Now, did you like your choice as you look back on your career?
If I was looking at it from an athletic perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I, yes and no,
Mm-hmm.
because I enjoyed my high school. I mean, even before we were talking
Mm-hmm.
on the podcast, I enjoyed my high school experience just as an overall.
Mm-hmm.
Best times of my life, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
College was dope too, but high school was it for me because I mean, that's where we were diverse. Everyone got along with each other. We encouraged one another. We went through some trouble at times too, but overall, that's where all of my people's majority of my people who I'm still friends with, that experience alone was dope. But if I if I had the chance to probably go back from an athletic perspective, I probably would have went to Cretan. Just because of their namesake, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cretan had the resources, and they
Mm-hmm.
they had what was needed to kind of take your athletic journey to another level, and it would have been a lot more easier to probably get recruited, because I was pretty good, playing football myself. So I can only imagine what that could have been if I would have went to Cretan and gotten those resources. So yeah, I probably would have went to Cretan, but I I'm a person who tries not to have regrets. So I can't really be mad at myself for going to Highland because I had a great time and the experience was dope. And athletically, we proved to be very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't take no shorts, and we did what we could, and we had the short end of the stick, unfortunately, our senior year, but
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't change it, to be honest with you. Just that little bit of a, if I would have went to Creed, I kind of could have probably made it to state
Mm-hmm.
instead of missing out on state. So
Now, when you were in high school, did you have aspirations to play college ball?
I had aspirations to play pro.
Okay.
A little kid wanted to take it to that next level. I
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was good enough to definitely be considered at least. I was pretty good. Like I said, I was pretty decent playing ball back in the day, but I definitely wanted. I felt like I could have made it to the league, But then the politics came. I started learning about the politics very early, my
Mm-hmm.
high school senior year, in regards of height, weight, and all that jazz. But I felt like I was good enough to definitely compete. So collegiately, definitely could have. Um, I felt like I was very competitive, and but then got hit with the whammy a little bit. So, but yeah, I wanted to play um pro.
Were there coming out of high school, were there other schools interested in you
Yeah, I mean,
besides I know you chose St.
yeah, I
Thomas, but
chose St. Thomas, but I had a few schools from. I had a couple. So I won't mention the school, but like one school, the coaching staff was a D2 school, and they actually got hired on to go to Division 1 in the
mm,
Big 12. And
mm-hmm.
that same coaching staff that was recruiting me said I was too short to play Division 1. So it's those type of experiences that I had
Mm-hmm.
back in the day coming out of high school. Um, but I had a few schools. I had at the time I had a lot of D1 AA Division 2 schools looking at me. Saginaw Valley. I had Eastern Michigan. Had Eastern Illinois. Back if I can remember. So those type of schools I was being recruited from. Northern Iowa. I can remember they came and visit. North Dakota State came and visit. South Dakota. I mean, I had all the regional schools looking at me at the time from a Division 1 AA Division 2. Yup. But yeah, it was fun going through those type of experiences. But again, when I started to, I kind of felt bad about that one experience because um, when they went to that Division 1 school, they were like, "Well, you're too short." I was like, "What?" Oh, now the politics are coming into the game, and that kind of broke my spirits a little bit. But I kept it moving, and I'm actually fortunate enough to have just go to St. Thomas and have that experience as well. So no heavy flaws, just I was being recruited and then they faded out and then I had to figure out what I was gonna do. So
Yeah, when did you come to the reality that all right, I'm not gonna play pro ball.
oh man, when I knew I wasn't gonna play pro ball when after my sophomore year in college, I blew my knee out. I think it
Okay.
was my sophomore. It was either my sophomore year or junior year.
Mm-hmm.
But when I blew my knee out, I was like, yeah, this is done. Because I'm a Division 3 at the time, Division
Mm-hmm.
three athlete trying to make it to the league. Nah, that wasn't gonna work. So my dreams and aspirations of the NFL was shot after my knee injury, and I dislocated my kneecap and tore my patella tendon. So that was a wrap.
Now, did you always have what most people call a backup plan?
Hmm.
If things, was there always something that you like, okay, if this doesn't work out,
Yep.
I have this.
Well, that's where JK movement came about,
Okay.
because I was in college. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, I blew my knee out sophomore or junior, I can't remember, but I started figuring out what I wanted to do outside of athletics during that time frame. So when I knew I wasn't gonna make it for sure, that's when I started going heavily on my dreams of running an operation like JK movement. So yeah, I definitely had a backup plan. And plus my parents hammered it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Academics is where it's at. You gotta get your books. You just can't rely on your guy giving a talent of from an athletic perspective. You got to get in those books. So I took that to heart too. I've always was an honor student coming out of high school and college. I did my thing the best way I could, but I was definitely in my books. So yeah.
So you had your parents, so you had a good support system.
Hey, I had a great support system, As I mentioned those coaches from Jimmy Lee. A lot of those coaches were my mentors as well.
Yeah, I was wondering like who are some of the people that, besides your parents
Mm-hmm.
and your family, who were some of the people that, that helped you, that even from afar,
Yeah.
you might not even have told some of these people, but
Yeah.
there are certain people that influenced you. Um, who are some of the people that influenced you
Yeah.
and in helping you develop, who you are and what you're doing today?
I, my parents, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My uncles and aunties are close. A few of them. My grandparents. I give all my family folks love on that. But then, I'll talk about the Lewises, Bobby Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ed Robinson, Dusty, Scott Howe, Jerry. I don't think Jerry's with us. Oh, well, there's a few Jerrys. You got the two Jerrys from the Little Rose,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got Coach Jerry, who was my third and fourth coach, and
Okay.
then and then Coach Bill, of course,
Mm-hmm.
icon. Um, the Allens, who live down the street. They're not related to us, but we acted like we're cousins. We still act like cousins.
Mm-hmm.
But the Allens, um, I mentioned the Robinsons. Coach Heller was a good person. He was influenced, or I was influenced by
That was
his
your high school
high
coach.
school coach. Yeah,
Okay.
Coach Roney when I was at St. Thomas. Coach Scanlon, who was my coach going into St. Thomas, helped a lot. I do want to Coach Katasic.
Mm-hmm.
He was a teacher. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people. But I do want to mention one person who I never really, Miss Jeter. I'm going to give Miss Jeter some love too, who was my English teacher in high school.
Mm-hmm.
She helped me understand the importance of leadership and being a leader. Because, in high school, you try to fit in where you can get in and, show out more than what you need to be. And Miss Jeter, one outside of Coach Katasic, pulled me to the side, was like, Johnny, you're a leader, but you're trying to be a follower right now, and you're doing things that you know better not to do. You know what I'm saying? So she gave me that little pep talk, and I'll never forget it. And she was one lady who really saw the leadership values in me, and she called it. She called it what it was with me, and I want to give her love on that because I never really mentioned that in regards of my journey of
Mm-hmm.
how I became who I was outside of everybody else. But Miss Jeter was a huge influence on me showing my leadership capabilities and leadership skills. So I want to show love to her real quick on that. I don't know where she's at, but but I remember that so vividly because she pulled me to the side one time and was just like, Johnny, you got to cut this out. And your parents ain't gonna be highly in favor of how you acted, and you are a leader, but you got to quit doing what you're doing. And that took me to the that really stuck to me. I knew I heard, I had it, but I never really had it from a teacher to tell me that way. And then ever since then, like I said, Coach Katasic, um, Mr. Womack was another teacher who gave me the spiel, but he did it in a strong black man needing to hear it from. So that was great too. So these people definitely played a part in regards of helping me become who I am today. So and there's a lot more other people, but those are people that I can vividly remember right now being on this podcast. I have a whole list of people, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely those people.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you learned growing up in school,
Mm.
playing football that have helped you with the JK movement?
Consistency
Mm-hmm.
is huge. And also how to manage defeat and how to cope with defeat. That was one piece of growing up because everyone wants to win, and I mean I'm a person who I hate to lose. I
Mm-hmm.
hate to lose, but you can't be a sore loser. You have to take it for what it is and learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
So those losses and the loss that we had to not make it to state, You have to figure out how you're gonna handle that situation and what can you do differently. So those experiences helped me a lot. And then some of this, being an athlete really helped me as an individual too. You gotta work on time management, you gotta work on, discipline, you gotta work on being a team player. So some of those values I use today as a business owner, and a person who's been in the nonprofit industry for a while. I use those values today still because they're important if you want people to trust you and follow you the way that you want, how you perceive to be. So those some of those lessons that I learned being a student athlete that I still use today as a grown adult in this industry. Yes.
As you look back, as you look back on your athletic career, any memories stand out? Any time that you remember that probably something that you never forget, something that you learned?
I'll never forget us losing against Totino Grace. That was tough. And then we talked about Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
and before we started this podcast, I'll never forget that game either because that was the game. You think about what if
Mm-hmm.
that game, if we would have won, it would have been a different mindset going into the next game, which would have been Cretan,
Mm-hmm.
which would have been for the all rights of the conference at the time, which
Mm-hmm.
could have it just there was a lot more at stake that could have been worthwhile if we would have won that game against Johnson. But it taught me a valuable lesson as well about overlooking people
Mm-hmm.
because that's another value that I learned, and that's what I still use to this day. You never overlook anybody. You always have to be prepared for whoever and whatever that comes in front of you. And being young and being cocky and arrogant and thinking that we're just this big bad HP machine, we were overlooking Johnson to get ready for Cretan, and they gave us that black eye, and then that kind of messed up our rhythm and momentum per se, or in our confidence. So I use that as an example of everyday life for me, in regards of preparation
Mm-hmm.
and looking at my situations differently and looking at it from a never overlooking anybody or any situation. Be prepared as much as you can with what you got and be ready to go at it 110%. Kind of have no mercy per se. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to put that type of mindset, but you have to in regards of life, I the last started to look into more of Kobe Bryant's mentality and
Mm-hmm.
that black mamba mindset, and that's the kind of mindset you want to kind of instill with our babies to an extent, and how that can relate to their everyday life. So I'm trying to imply that to myself as well, but I use the humble grizzly mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mixing all these animals up, but that humble grizzly mindset is in relations to what I remember when we played high school and even collegiately, but definitely high school. Um, Preparation.
Now, was the Totino Grace game in sections?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was to go against that game would have had us go against Matamidi to go to state.
Okay. Okay. So you made a run. You
We
made a
made a
run
nice
in
run. Yeah,
in the section. Okay.
yeah. But just like we were saying, our team's strengths was speed, and it was winter time or fall, but the fields were the greatest. And if I can remember, I think we're like 0-4 overall in my high school experience just because of the rain and mud itself. So
Mhm.
we always had a fast team, and we just couldn't overcome that. So it's all good. Great memories.
Yeah. Now, now do you have still have a vision of the JK movement? I mean, you've been there 15 years, but when you run organizations, do you always keep a vision going? I mean,
Mhm.
or I mean, I'm not sure. Like, do you just stop and go, well, we've done this, we've done that, we're just gonna keep it like this, or do you have more aspirations?
Yeah, we definitely want to be the premier healing center engagement organization providing resources for our youth here in the state of Minnesota and beyond. So we still are reaching for those goals and that vision to be that premier organization for this type of delivery for youth and families. Yeah, I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to just be content with what we're got doing. I always try to look beyond and see what we can offer still, because
Mhm.
there's a need in our society, and we want to be able to provide those type of solutions as much as we can. So yeah, we definitely striving to continue being a trusted organization here in the communities that we serve.
As you look back, I asked you about, your athletic accomplishment that or a memory.
Mm.
Um, are there any memories with the JK movement, like anything that stands out, like maybe someone achieving something, or a time where you saw the organization really come together?
You know, recently there was a video done of young folks who had their own experience and what their thoughts were coming out of the JK movement, um and I'll send you that video so you can look at it,
Mhm.
brother Mitch. But and it was a handful of young folks. They're all kind of grown now. They're either done with college or they're out here living their life, being productive. But all of them mentioned the experience that they had being part of a trusted organization. Um, relationships with myself,
Mhm.
relationships with staff, relationships with just the organization. And that is the reason why we do what we do. That's what I can remember. And that's one thing that I can definitely have in my back pocket to again remind myself why we do what we do, because they didn't have to. They didn't have to tell their story. They didn't have to even be part of the program. We're a free organization. We provide free programming, and we try our best to offer the other amenities from transportation to snacks and food. We really try to not have any barriers for our young folks and families not to take part of our programming. All we
Mhm.
ask them to do is participate and work on those skills that are being delivered to you guys in everyday life, from school to the community to hanging out with your fellas or young ladies, or and even your interactions with your family. We want them to try to instill those lessons that we're helping them with and understand to be productive citizens out here in society. So being able to see those young folks
Mhm.
with their testimonials, talking about their experience with JK movement, and particularly with me, and their experience with me. That's what I remember. I remember, and that's a blessing. I got young folks who've graduated from college that are working with Google. I got young
Mhm.
folks who've graduated, who's working with or came from Stanford. I have young folks that's working in different industries, from hospitality to even tech. So having these young folks with their testimonials about just a little piece of the pie of what we've been able to do with them, I remember that. And that's what I'm, grateful for. So all of those stories that I've been able to hear and witness, it's been dope. I even shoot. I mean, I know this. I mean, it's fresh off the press, but even this one right here, what I do, I provide I had to go back and do some of my leadership work personally just to remind myself why I got into this industry.
Mhm.
So, we had a contract in South Washington County
Mhm.
providing in-school leadership programming, and today was the last day per se with this particular school, or even with the contract that we have. But you know, you know, we this today
Mhm.
was the last day, so took a picture with them, and then
Yeah.
um the the coordinator of the program was so thankful for us to be part of that experience with these young folk. That's why I do what I do. Because outside of my babies, I got two young ones right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a blessing. And I want them to witness and experience me as a dad, but also some of the things that I've been thankful and gifted to do with the kids that I work with. I
Now,
want them
now
to
how old are
ex-
they?
they are 8 and 6, and
Okay.
they keep me going. They are a run. They keep me going, Mitch. You saw them.
Yeah.
They keep me moving, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. As much as it can be challenging sometimes, I
Mhm.
wouldn't trade it. Seeing them grow, it reminds me why I do with my nonprofit. Just seeing them grow, but seeing it from a daddy's perspective, that's dope for me. So, and they're growing fast. So, but yeah, just these type of stories is why I do what I do. I cannot express my gratitude to you and the JK movement. What a great experience for these boys. I hope you
Mhm.
are able to come back next fall. We would absolutely be honored. So, hearing those stories and seeing our these young folks and the impact that we have on them, that's what's up for me. Because we want to. You mentioned community. You mentioned, and we mentioned the ecosystem. Our young babies need to see us in that way. Not looking for no hand. We're not. For me, it's not about the trophies or the certificates or the acknowledgments. It's me. It's letting them know that they got a person who want to see them be successful, and want you to have dreams and aspirations. So that's why I do what I do. That's why the JK movement is around, still doing its impact. So that's what I remember. That's what I will continue to remember.
Okay. Now, time goes quick, and as we come to a close, uh, usually give our guests a chance to share something with the listeners. Um, could be just words of wisdom,
Hmm.
and or maybe something that you didn't get a chance to talk about, or maybe maybe just some advice for people who want to you know follow
Hmm.
follow you and go in your footsteps. So this is your chance to address that as we close.
I've always appreciate anyone who is willing to donate either monetarily or in kind, or just spending time with our babies at the organization. I'm all about that. Very grateful and honored for those contributions. You can always reach us at www.thejkm.org, which is thejkm.org, or they can reach us at 651-558-7815. And they can get more information that way. And then another thing that you mentioned, you know, do it organically. Do it because you're doing it for the kindness of your heart and not for anything in return. There's a lot of people out here that do things and they expect something out of, a return out of it. If you're doing things to try to make an impact or a difference, especially to our young black boys and black girls, or just youth in general, they can read us like a book. They can read us within those 7 seconds. You know what I'm saying? They know if you're fluffing or not. So I always encourage people, if do it for the kindness of your heart. Do it because you want to see our babies thrive and be successful, and not because you can get your name in the limelight for whatever the case may be, whatever your end game is, but
Mhm.
do it because you want to see our babies be successful, and they'll go a long way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, I want to thank you uh, for stopping by and sharing your story and sharing your organization with the listeners and the
Mm.
community. It's really appreciated.
I appreciate you, brother Mitch. Like I said, you've been knowing me since 8th grade. I used to harass you to give me a storyline in the paper, boy. So I got nothing but love for you and your family, and rest in peace, Elder Kwame, because I mean, you guys are loved. You know that. So I appreciate the love and the opportunity.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This concludes another episode of Blacklight on Sports. Be sure to read myself and Charles Hallman every week in the Spokesman-Recorder, and always looking forward to the next podcast.